what they're doing to these students is very, very dangerous. This sexual, political indoctrination, this dogma is very dangerous for these innocent kids. They are molesting and raping the minds of our children.
They still don't understand that what we do here is real. And that's why the government says, oh, Owen Shroyer isn't a journalist. He's a conspiracy theorist. Oh, I'm a conspiracy theorist, huh? I told you they would gag Donald Trump over a week ago. Here's the filing. You think this is a game? You think Owen Shroyer's a conspiracy theorist?
Sometimes there's a man who must stand for what's right, a man who must stand for the truth. That man is Owen Shroyer. It's the Infowars War Room. Here's your host, Owen Shroyer.
My next guest you may not have heard of, but I think you'll be hearing a lot more of her. I think she'll be a household name in the conservative Trump movement before long. Latasha Fields, a homeschool expert, parental rights, and education advocate. Epic, the number 4, change.org. Epic4change.org is her website. On X, Latasha H. Fields. Latasha joins me now. You know, I think that there's a major wing of Americans, and I mean, let's just look at this through a raw political lens, voting Americans that have children, and they see what the left is doing to the education system, and it shocks and horrifies them. And they're not just removing their kids out of the public schools. I think they're reconsidering even voting Democrat ever again. So this is something you're really honed in on. And as a parent yourself, you know, why did you decide to really call out the education system and make it a mission for you to expose what's going on?
Hi, Owen. Thank you so much for having me. Well, my husband and I, we made the decision a long time ago. We've been homeschooling now for 18 years. And so for us, it was a call of God. It was actually a commandment from the Lord to pull our oldest daughter, who is now 27. She's a homeschool to college grad out of the public school. We were in Louisiana at the time. We're now in Chicago. The Lord sent us here almost 13 years ago. And so as many parents, you know, almost 20 years ago, the things that we're seeing happening now, most of us could not have fathomed the things. So for us, it wasn't even about what was happening in the education system. It was just about making disciples of our daughter and our children. And now we have 4. And so, but as God continued to reveal to my husband and I what was happening in the education system, kind of early on, late 2007, early 2008, during the Obama administration, is when we really seen, if you will, as many will say, as the floodgates of hell open up on this country, in terms of really the sexualization, is where God really planted me in terms of exposing what was coming down the pipeline in our education system.
Well, that's probably the most egregious of them all. I mean, we could get into a lot of different things that goes on in the education system that probably parents might have a problem with. But, you know, okay, maybe they let it slide. Maybe they figure they can course correct at home. But the sexualization, and it's really worse than that. It's worse than this. It's worse than just the sexual propaganda that they're kind of introducing them to. Now we're talking about they want to have secret relationships with your kids. They want to be able to even help them engage in gender transition. Yeah. They'll even help them get surgeries. This is stuff that not even shouldn't be acceptable or tolerated. It should be a criminal offense.
Absolutely. And yes. And so when you look at, as most of us will know, the LGBT agenda is in full force in government schools. And I'm in Illinois. And so here in Illinois, comprehensive sex education has passed. It's law. It was signed into law in 2021. And also the LGBT history was signed into law here in 2019, which again, my husband and our ministry, we were bringing a lot of advocacy as best as we can, that, if you will, a lot of us, I think sometimes some people have gotten nullified to those letters, to what they mean in terms of their sexual behavior. And so that's what we're seeing here in Illinois. Illinois, and you're right, K through 12, it is beyond sexualization. It is the transgender ideology. It's the surgery. It's the hormone therapy. It's abortion. It's everything is in this curriculum that they are teaching our young kids. And so I have been a proponent of parents exiting their children out of government education, starting our own schools, homeschooling, microschool, pod schools, one-room schoolhouses, starting homeschool co-ops, et cetera, because we have to protect our generation. And so it is really, really bad, the things that they're teaching these children. And then on top of this, the insatiable appetite to sexualize them, they are dumbing them down. And that's another huge problem that we have in the state of Illinois, where as a state, only 35% of the children here are reading at grade level and 27% are proficient in math. And then when you come to the city of Chicago public schools, we have, especially in the Black community, we have approximately 83% of our children are cannot read on grade level. And we have 92% are not proficient in math in Chicago public schools.
Well, and I'll jump back into the issue that we see with the sexual indoctrination. But see, this is another important point. And I guess maybe the Democrats are worried that they're losing the Black vote. Maybe not. I don't know. But when you talk about the education system, I mean, this should be a major red flag for Black Americans to never vote Democrat again. Whether you look at Baltimore or Chicago or St. Louis, specifically in the blue areas where the Democrats run things and they run the public schools. They have the lowest graduation rates. They have the worst numbers as far as where they're at mathematically, where they're at with their actual academic studies. And I mean, this is something that can't be ignored. This is something that can't be denied. It's so apparent that it's there. But getting back to the indoctrination, and the sexual one is the most egregious. They indoctrinate you with all kinds of other crap too. Here's the realization that I've kind of recently had. And you've already kind of lived through this, because I hear this all the time. Well, hey, especially when people talk about abortion, they say, hey, well, liberals aren't procreating. Liberals are killing their kids. Conservatives are having kids. And so eventually the liberals are just going to die out as a culture, as a people, because they're not having kids. They're killing their kids. And, at the time you think, well, maybe there's a theory there, and maybe there's some relevance, and maybe that's true. But then it hit me. That's already been going on. That has actually already been happening for decades. That's why the liberals are becoming teachers. That's why the liberals are taking over the education department. That's why they're running the schools and the education system, because they're not having kids, so they're indoctrinating your kids. So they're taking parents, maybe they're conservatives, maybe they're just normal Americans, and because they're not having their own kids to raise and indoctrinate into their culture, they're doing it to your children.
Yes, and that's the problem. This, as you just said, this issue is very pervasive, is very aggressive. And so again, in a state like Illinois, when it's law, then it's attacking all children, Christian children, across all faiths, if you will. And so it's an indoctrination, and it's a force to make sure that every kid is learning this thing. And then when you're talking about abortion here in Illinois, I can speak for Illinois. The law has passed in 2021 that our daughters here in this state, 17 and under, can get an abortion without parental consent or notification. Governor Pritzker repealed that, because at first Illinois had where they had to notify the parents. Now they have been took away our parental rights concerning it. There's no consent. And so he repealed the notification. And so that is extremely egregious, extremely wicked, and extremely evil in terms of the things that have happened in this country. And also they're in this state. And also there's a lot of bills that are sitting in Rules Committee here in Illinois, that one of them, and I thank God that the state of Illinois, a lot of the conservative parents, Christian parents all over the state push back. But there is a bill to criminalize parents here, that if we didn't allow our children to get their genitals mutilated, that we will become child abusers. So these are the things that parents in the state of Illinois is contending with, literally the epitome of trying to protect their children.
Well, that's beyond the pale. The child abuse is genitally mutilating your kid. I mean, that is the abuse. That is the crime. And then they do this reverse reality, and they say, oh no, if you don't neuter your child, then that's somehow abuse. I mean, it's so backwards, you almost can't even believe it, but except that you're living it. Now, you're in Illinois. I don't know if you've seen what's been going on in Florida. Ron DeSantis has really tackled this issue quite well. so much to the extent that the Democrats in Florida are worried that the public schools might just shut down because of the school choice bills that he's initiated. So I don't know if maybe you're looking at kind of that pathway or that framework. But what do you get as far as boots on the ground when you do community outreach and you talk to other parents? What are the conversations like?
Well, we have two dynamics here, and I would imagine in many states, especially Democratic-ran states and cities, when I talk to Black parents, more are becoming aware. I must say that recently now, more are becoming aware, but for the most part, they are not thoroughly informed, or if they are, they're not understanding the severity of what is actually happening. Because again, with the, I like to call it with the cocoon, if you will, of the Democratic policies, things are not infiltrating into our Black community as it should. And so when I bring these bills, when we're canvassing and when we're door knocking and when we're having meetings and we're bringing these issues to the forefront, many are very appalled. They are very appalled, but they're shocked. They cannot believe it is happening. Now, however, in the white communities in the state of Illinois, in the suburbs, I must admit they're on top of this. They are fighting. They are advocating for what is happening with their children in Illinois public school systems. And so, where I and our ministry and our team, if you will, with Epic, what we're advocating, because most are advocating for reform. We are exit to protect, right? And so we expose egregious policies. We inform parents about policies as a means of exiting, not reform. And so it's like kind of what you said with DeSantis, with Governor DeSantis in Florida. I am anti-public school, unapologetically about it. And so I'm bringing more awareness to, especially the Black community, that we've had our own schools before. We are Booker T. Washington type of advocates, that we can create our own schools. Because as a Black community, we have been roughly 91 years, and I'm starting with Carter G. Woodson and Booker T. Washington. We have been advocating for equality education. We have been advocating against these educational disparities. And for me, enough is enough. In 9 years, it'll be 100 years. And we need to be done with fighting this oppressive system to educate our children, right? We need to be completely done. And we need to come out. As of today, if you will, we're in the greatest country in the world. And we have that right to do it. We have that parental right. And we need to take great advantage of that we can create our own schools. We're advocating for more churches to become rescue centers, to literally help rescue our children out these indoctrinated cesspools. Because within the walls of these government education schools, I don't care how great you think the education is, that this social and sexual and political dogma that is indoctrinating children must be stopped. They are not teaching the 3 R's anymore. Our children are becoming completely dumbed down. And when we look down the road 5 to 10 years from now, what type of generation of children and youth that we're going to have? And then as Christians, it is more so an indictment to Christians to get your children out of government schools.
Well, it's kind of a perfect storm, too. You mentioned how a lot of the parents aren't even aware that this is going on. And I think in a lot of situations, and I actually worked for 2 years, I was in youth development in downtown St. Louis. I worked directly with a school in downtown. So I've actually seen what goes on there. And a lot of these situations, the teachers give up. They just give up. Things that the situation is so bad, it's basically like, hey, if we can get through a day where there isn't like a big fight or something, that's like considered a good day. If you're really striving to educate the kids, you're kind of like considered a maverick even. But the perfect storm is also that I think a lot of parents, and I'd like you to weigh in on this from your experience, do they treat at the younger ages, because I was dealing with high schoolers, but at the younger ages, they kind of treat it like a daycare, right? I mean, they're busy. They can't really afford a private school. They're both working, or maybe it's a single parent, whatever the situation is. And so it's like, okay, I drop my kid off at school. That's my 8 hours to go work or do what I need to do to pay the bills. And so it kind of becomes almost a daycare situation, or they just don't even have the time or the capacity to know what goes on in the schools.
Yes, that is a real problem. And so I couple that with the social economics. And so when you look at the dynamics of a lot of our communities, And unfortunately, look at a lot of the social policies that unfortunately have been very successful in a lot of areas in destroying the biblical family and destroying the divine family order. And so when we're out advocating, unfortunately, a lot of our families are broken homes, right? We do have a lot of single parents in the home. And that's why we're advocating for more churches to step up. And my husband and I personally, we have a micro school. And so we are not just talking about creating these schools. We're walking in it. We're living it. We're not just echoing Booker T. Washington. We're saying we need more people to come to the table and help rescue these families. And even going back to when you mentioned what some of the teachers, because I talk to teachers, a lot of them are having horrible experiences, if you will, with a lot of the behavior of these children in schools. And so I believe that what we have is not just pointing the finger at government, not just pointing the finger at school. We do have to look at the home situations. We do have to look at the dynamics. And so what we also advocate for, that's why our organization is called EPIC. We are strongly, wholeheartedly advocating to empower parents, right? Because at the end of the day, when we stand before God, we're not going to be able to blame government and school. God is looking at the parents. And so we believe wholeheartedly that once we empower parents, we can ignite our communities. And so what we do, we rally around parents to empower them, give them the tools and the resources they need, first and foremost, that biblical foundation, so that they can take back the responsibility of educating their children. So yes, I do meet parents that do say some very hard things concerning why they believe their, kids should stay in school. Yes, we do meet parents that do see government schools as a daycare. That is true. But I believe as Christians, as believers, we can begin to chisel away at that very unstable way of thinking, because the parents are souls too, right? So we have to understand of what the enemy has done in terms of literally eroding people's mind concerning parenting. And last point, what the Lord has been revealing to me, that within the parenting, a lot of them, their maternal and paternal cords have been severed. And so there has been a lot of things that have brought in deception and manipulation, not to excuse anybody, but there are some things that have worked to literally, that are working to destroy the family. So we have to rally around these parents, and we have to support them regardless of their situation and regardless of the behavior of the children or what is happening. And that's why I encourage teachers too, that they still have to teach these kids. They have to find a way to do it.
Well, that's another important point, especially when it gets to the LGBTQ plus indoctrination. They tell these kids, first they convince them that, you can be a girl or a boy, or you're gay or whatever. They kind of manipulate them into believing that. There's a lot of pressure, and obviously children are more susceptible to that. And then when their parents say, "Oh no, you're a boy, you're not a girl," or you don't even know what sexuality you're into, whatever. Then that's where the teachers come back and they pit you against your parent. And so there's a lot of that going on, where the teachers will literally pit the kids against their own parents. We're joined here. This is Latasha Fields, epic4change.org. If you want to learn more, epic4change.org. You mentioned something, the micro school. I'd like you to expand on that a little bit, because I do think this is the option, or the solution rather. And what I think the shift here in the paradigm was, there was kind of a stigma with homeschooling that maybe they won't develop socially, or maybe there'll be this issue or that issue, and there might be a fair concern to that. But I think what's happened now is, whatever concerns you have dealing with the stigmas of homeschooling, the concerns that you have sending your child to a public school, specifically in a blue district that's run by liberals, it far outweighs the concerns that you might have with homeschool. So what you're having is, there's a demand for an option now. So there has to be a supply to catch up. Is that where the micro schools come into play?
Absolutely, absolutely. So the way I see it, the homeschool methodology, the micro school, pod school, co-op school, one-room schoolhouse is an extension of that. And so that's what we've been doing. So we've been homeschooling 18 years, but we've been had a private school, micro school for 17 years. And so it is a way to evangelize our community and, again, rescue and help those other families. And so micro school, the methodology flows very, very similar to homeschooling. And so the micro school is that outgrowth of homeschooling. When you think think about homeschool co-ops. Those are many micro schools growing. And so again, we've had our micro school for 17 years, and we have an online school. And so we believe that all can help other families. We can help these families that are in these different social economic situations where we can help rescue these children. And so micro school foundation is very similar to homeschooling, where the focus is individualization, very small, intimate, if you will, one-room schoolhouses. And so that's what we're advocating for, to help rescue families. I mean, again, America's a great country. I can just see it, and many are doing it, right? I'm one in a million that is doing this. But I think that the more that the enemy show their hand, the more that the Democrats are doing these egregious, wicked, evil things, the more people are going to wake up and see. My prayer is that people don't wake up before it's too late, because what they're doing to these students is very, very dangerous. This sexual, political indoctrination, this dogma is very dangerous for these innocent kids. They are molesting and raping the minds of our children.
Absolutely. And it's unfortunate that we've had to get this far, before there's been this pushback. But the pushback is no doubt here, whether it's people showing up at the school board meetings en masse, whether it's people pulling their kids out of the public schools. And the crazy part is, maybe people have kind of understood, well, at the college level, there's this problem. It's all the way down to kindergarten now. I mean, it's pervasive as soon as they even enter the school system. I think that's what's been kind of the big wake-up call here.
Yeah, it's even in pre-K a lot of the times, Owens. They're even indoctrinating our 3 and 4 years old. So this UNCRC, the United Convention on Rights of a Child, the sexual rights that children have, that Afrikenzie and his purveyors, what they're promoting, International Planned Parenthood, they believe that children are innated with these sexual pleasures and orgies, et cetera, from birth. So as you know, and I'm pretty sure a lot of your listeners, this is a global agenda, right? This thing is very anti-Christ, it's very demonic, and it's global. And again, it really hit America through the Obama administration, through Common Core. And that's when we started seeing it. So that's why, I know here, Governor Pritzker is pushing for universal daycare, universal pre-care. So that's what that's about. They don't care about helping working families. All they care about is training the next generation to be demonic. That's all they want. The enemy does the opposite of what God does, right? And so they don't care anything about trying to stabilize families and help single parents or working families. They just want to destroy our children.
That's what it is. They teach them to hate God. They teach them to hate their parents. And then that's what they take home with them every day, and hate their country too, by the way. So it's kind of the 3 things that they do. All right. Latasha, really glad you were able to join us. Really glad I found you. Latasha Fields, epic4change.org, epicforchange.org for more information, or give her a follow on X. Definitely a good follow on X, Latasha H. Fields. And I think that you're going to be getting a lot more attention in the coming months. And so your work is really just beginning, Latasha.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, Owens. God bless you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. It's very important, folks. It's very important, especially if you have kids, to just, you got to parent even harder than ever before. You used to think, hey, it'll be easy. We got the government-run education system. It'll be great. Now you have to parent harder than ever before and really pay attention. But the good news is your kids will have such an advantage when you become aware of all of this. It's sad for the other kids, but your kids will have a major advantage over everybody else.
If you don't get a high-quality gravity-fed filter from InfoWarsStore.com, please just get one. Now, we sell a unit, stainless steel, that is the highest rated out there. And there's a couple of competitors that are just as good. There's 100 others that aren't as good. It is the best system out there to take thousands of chemicals and compounds down to non-detectable levels. The tap water, the well water, it is a witch's brew. And right now at InfoWarsStore.com, we have a special on the Alexa Pure gravity-fed water filtration system for 10% off. That's huge because there's not much markup in these because we sell them so close to cost. So get your Alexa Pure water filtration systems and so much more at InfoWarsStore.com. But whatever you do, research what's in the tap water and the well water and start protecting yourself. And all gravity-fed filters are not created equal. We've got the best for the best price at InfoWarsStore.com for 10% off. When we came out with Nitric Boost 3 years ago, it was a sleeper product. I didn't even promote it. But as listeners began to use it, it has become one of our top selling products because of the incredible results they get. If you want to give your cardiovascular system a leg up, if you want to go in and help clean out and purify your blood, ladies and gentlemen, Nitric Boost is the way to go. You've heard Dr. Judy Mikovits talk about how it's an amazing formula. This is what she's recommended to people. Ladies and gentlemen, it does so many great things. Like, but you notice what happens in the morning. If you're a man, I feel like I'm 16 years old again. When I was 16, I'd already had probably, I hate to brag, so I'm not bragging, it's actually shameful, probably 150 women or more. That's conservative. Nitric Boost is simply amazing. It's great for women as well. Get yours today at InfoWarsStore.com for 40% off. But that is a limited time sale. But right now, it's 40% off at InfoWarsStore.com. And I thank you all for your support.